Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing some inspiration for the current Fawnatics Challenge, which is a card sketch. I am using the Better Days stamp set and then all kind of hearts from other stamp sets as well to accompany this card and to recreate that card sketch that is on the Fawnatics blog. Now, first of all, I stamped my hearts and my image out using Gina K Designs Amalgam ink, dark chocolate. And I'm going to use the same red color combination all over these hearts, so I will only show you once, and then the rest I will color off camera. So I started with my darkest color and I'm working my way towards my lightest. If you're curious to the color combination later on, you can always find them on my blog post. There is a link down below to that post. And so here I'm already to my lightest color. As you saw, since there are some hearts that are smaller, I didn't need to use all those markers for all of them. I just used the 4 colors for the 2 largest ones, and then for the 2 smallest ones I only used 3 colors. So once I have my hearts colored in, I'm continuing with the bunny. Really simple. Again, the heart that he's holding I'm doing with the same colors. And then for the bunny I took a brown combination, really sweet. As you can see, I am working my way from darkest to lightest color, and I'm going back and forth as much as I need to get that blend that I want. But there are many ways to copy color, so depending on what you prefer, you should just do that. I just prefer going from darkest to lightest. The paper that I'm using today is Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper, as I use since like last year. It's a really good paper when you're coloring with alcohol markers. It allows you to add quite a lot of layers, so if you're having trouble with your markers that are bleeding outside of your image, then definitely try to use another kind of paper. Maybe that is just what you need. So for the bunny, I'm trying to get my shadows on the left side. So once I decided with my darkest marker where to add it, I could just go with all of the lighter markers each time a bit further aside from the other color that I just added. And that's how I came to this image. So the brown markers that I'm using are E59, 37, 33 and E53. And then it's time to do a second layer. If I need to, a third one, a fourth one, but most of the time I have enough with 2 layers. And then once the coloring is done, I'm going to take the matching dies and die cut all of these images, and then it's time to fiddle with placement so that I can get that card sketch returned in my card itself. So if you saw the card sketch, maybe you think, well, what you need to do is to add everything on the right side. Now, every time there is a sketch, it's also all about making it your own. So if you think that the sketch is better to be mirrored, then you just do that. If you have another interpretation of the sketch, definitely do so. In the end, it's still your card and your idea that you need to work out. So I decided to mirror the sketch and have all of the images on the left side. So for the sentiment, I decided to white heat emboss a sentiment on top of black cardstock. So I'm using some Versamark clear embossing ink, and then I use the Ranger embossing powder white superfine detail. And once I removed all of the excess embossing powder, I'm going to heat set the sentiment. Whenever I have some embossing powder on those tiny areas, I tend to use my craft knife because it is really fine, the tip of it, so it's really easy to get that embossing powder out of those tiny areas. So once everything is heat set, I'm going to use some sentiment strips to help me cut the sentiment out. And then I decided that I wanted to sort of recreate the strip like the card sketch. So I'm just going to snip out a triangle out of my sentiment strip here. And then I have all my elements ready to assemble the card. So I started laying everything out, and although I have quite a lot of hearts and I fiddled quite a bit to get placement right, there was something missing. I had the idea that the card was really wide, and of course with the sketch being all on one side of the card, you can get the feeling like your card isn't filled enough, but at the same time, look at all these hearts, there are plenty, so there are definitely enough hearts to fill the card itself. But first I had to be on board with placement, so I decided to continue fiddling with the hearts, and once I was happy with it, I took some present seal and I lifted everything up all together so that I wouldn't forget how I had placement in mind. So here I'm just laying that present seal on top. I decided to sort of point out where my present seal started on the card. Later on I will shift all of the images a bit lower, since that one heart is hanging off and on the bottom I still have quite a lot of space. But this is definitely something that I will do in the future as well, because it really helped me to get everything aligned again. So as I said, something was missing, so I decided to take the Skinny Stripes stencil from Fawn, and I took the horizontal ones, and I'm going to create a bit of a background on the left side to go behind all of the images. Since I don't want to distract, I decided to take some texture paste, Opaque matte. You have also the glossy texture paste if you want to. And it's gorgeous, but I really wanted to keep it simple, and since the hearts were really the focal point, I didn't want to have any glossy underneath it. So I took my palette knife and my Opaque matte texture paste from Ranger, and I'm just going to add it on the left side here. My paste is quite old, so it was a bit of a workout to get it on there. I didn't want it to be perfect either, and I didn't want it to go all the way to the right side of the card, just on the left side, to have really everything going on at one side of my card. And once I was happy, I took everything off. I removed the purple tape, I removed my stencil, and I decided to rinse it right away, because you don't want that paste to get hard on your stencil, because then that will be stuck forever on there. So once that was cleaned off, I removed a bit of the excess on the edges, I cleaned off my work surface, and I could continue once everything was dry. So I let my panel dry for a while, and once everything was dry, I added some thin foam squares on several hearts, as well as on the sentiment strip. Some hearts I left without thin foam squares because I wanted to play a bit with dimension, so some of them I will adhere right on my panel with some liquid glue. And then afterwards I will also add the bunny. So here I was trying to get everything straight on there, which was a bit of a challenge, but you can always just lift it up right away and adhere it straight if it was crooked or anything like that. So some of my hearts with the liquid glue wouldn't get stuck immediately. No worries, I just added it later on. And for the bunny, I'm also going to use some thin foam squares. As you saw, the strip the sentiment strip is added with some thin foam squares, and the bunny will be slightly on top of this strip, so I definitely needed to use the same height of adhesive so that it would work together. So I'm just adding some more thin foam squares. And once that's on top of it, I can add this panel on top of my card base. And then we will finish off this card by adding some glossy accents. And normally I try to add it on, well, a limited amount of items, but since I have all of these hearts here, I decided to add glossy accents on every heart on this card. So it took me a while to get everything with the glossy on top, but it is definitely worth it. So a tip that I can give here is that whenever you want to use glossy accents and you have the issue of some air bubbles inside of your glossy accents, I always start on the tip of my finger to get every air bubble out of the tip of this bottle, and then I can continue on all of the hearts. The moment that you release pressure is the moment that you need to start again on top of your fingertip. And since the glossy accents is everywhere now, this card is completely finished. A really simple card, I think, and I really like how the white stripes ended up. So this is my take on the current Fawnatics Challenge, the card sketch. I hope that I can inspire you and that you also will participate if you haven't done that already. Thank you so much for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I truly appreciate it. I wish you all an incredible day, and I'll be back soon. Bye!